come out, wherever you are, and meet the young lady who fell from a star. She fell from the sky, she fell very far, and Kansas, she says, is the name of the star.
Kansas, she says, is the name of the star.
She brings you good news, or haven't you heard? When she fell out of Kansas, a miracle occurred.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My name is Elizabeth McMahon. I'm the supervising librarian of Donnell Media Center, which serves as the central film and video collection of the New York Public Library. Tonight, the Media Center, the Yip Harburg Foundation, and Ernie Harburg, the Foundation's president, are very pleased to present the 4th annual celebration of Yip Harburg, one of America's greatest stage and screen lyricists. We are also celebrating this evening a very valuable asset of the Media Center, the Yip Harburg Political Documentary Collection, which was established here in April of 2004. Last Sunday, Yip would have turned 111 years old. The Yip Harburg Foundation has continued the spirit of this remarkable man's political activism, for which Yip himself was so well known, by underwriting the production of many powerful and moving social documentaries. The Foundation has given video copies of all of these great films to the Media Center so that the people of New York and those who join us from places outside of New York can share in Yip's activist spirit. This month, 6 documentaries from the collection have been shown and will continue to be screened this month, every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. The 6 documentaries include Tell the Truth and Run, George Saldays and the American Press, A Question of Color, and Sacco and Vanzetti. The program notes, which I tried to hand out to everybody, are gray and they're located at the back of the auditorium. Our theatrical concert tonight, replete with rare film clips featuring Yip and one of his brilliant composers, Burton Lane, and other surprises, as also included, is called Who Put the Rainbow in the Wizard of Oz? Yip Harburg, Lyricist. We are thrilled to present a wonderfully impressive array of talent assembled by Yip's daughter-in-law and artistic director, Deena Rosenberg, who's back here right behind me. The program's conceiver and narrator. We welcome back co-conceiver, superlative musical director and pianist David Brunetti, extraordinary vocalist Catherine Russell, Yip's grandson Ben Harburg, and some members of the Foundation's Rainbow Troupe, whom Deena will introduce shortly. And now, the answer to the question, who put the rainbow in the Wizard of Oz?
On the day I was born, said me father, said he, I've an elegant legacy waiting for ye. 'Tis a rhyme for your lips and a song for your heart, to sing it whenever the world falls apart. Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow. Follow the fellow who follows a dream.
I want to welcome everyone also, and I'm Deena Rosenberg, Artistic Director of the Yip Harburg Foundation, and very, very proud to be Yip Harburg's daughter-in-law. We have 4 generations of Harburgs here tonight. You just saw Yip, who, as he says in a lyric, is waving at us from his favorite star. Yip's son, Ernie, president of the foundation, who will speak in just a bit. Marge Harburg, Yip's daughter. Tom Harburg and Ben Harburg, two of Yip's grandsons, and Michelle Harburg, Yip's great-granddaughter. Okay, and that's not all the Harburgs there are, but there are a lot of us, 4 generations of us. Yip's elegant legacy among them and among you is in good hands. Yip just told us in song to follow the fellow who follows a dream. This line is from the song Look to the Rainbow, which is the theme song of his theatrical masterpiece, Finian's Rainbow, written in collaboration with brilliant composer Burton Lane and co-book writer Fred Sadie. Earlier, in his film masterpiece, The Wizard of Oz, a line from perhaps his greatest lyric, Over the Rainbow, has another reference to dreams. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. In Yip's great songs, rainbows are the driving force behind those dreams. Finian's Rainbow in one, the rainbow after the rain in the other. But the singer and the listener can't just sit back and let the rainbow find them. To find Finian's Rainbow, you have to follow it. In order to go over the rainbow, you have to dare to dream. So just keep that in mind. Yip wanted his listeners to not just be passively listening, but to act. Among all his brilliant colleagues of his generation, the first golden age of American musical theater included George and Ira Gershwin, Rodgers and Hart, Irving Berlin, all geniuses. Yip had perhaps the widest range. He was the least bound by the conventions of the music industry, which mostly wanted love songs. Yip saw all of life the way it was through a kind of rotating prism. And if you turn it, you see it from a different perspective and another perspective, and all the colors of the rainbow, so to speak. So we'll be talking about rainbows a lot, and I just want to tell you a little bit about Yip's early life and how that influenced what's to come and where he found that rainbow image. Yip Harburg grew up, as most of you probably know, in dire poverty on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, the son of Russian-Jewish immigrants. And empathy with immigrants stayed with him throughout his life. Throughout his life, he said, "The chill of poverty never left my bones." Indeed, he became Broadway's social conscience, as we will see. But life was not all misery, in fact, far from it. Yip's father took him to comedies at the Yiddish Theater, and Yip developed a deep, lifelong sense of humor, his own quirky, witty sense of humor, believing that humanity had to laugh or we were lost. At the public library, the Tompkins Square Library, where he went as a boy, he fell in love with poetry, and he became a poet well before he started writing song lyrics, that is, words that go to music. And he loved to act in plays, and apparently he was quite a good actor, quite a hand. All these components went into Yip's writing. A strong social conscience, insisting people ask questions and speak up, a puckish sense of humor, an ear for poetry and wit, an ability to become larger-than-life characters in these plays as an actor. And this would all be filtered through the rainbow prism, paradoxical, ever-changing, like life. The rainbow, as we know, would become his major image. As I said, it informs his immortal film and his classic show. And as background, we're going to start by hearing 3 songs that are great in their own right and precede The Wizard of Oz and Finian's Rainbow, and show Yip's own journey to that rainbow. Incredibly, all these songs were written in the same year, 1932. The first song, I guess, points up the qualities of imagination and also that life is filled with paradox and questions. It's about Paris, though Yip had never been outside of New York City, as far as I know, at the time he wrote it, and he imagined what Paris would be like by looking at travel posters in a travel agency. As I said again, it may be a beautiful place, but it's also a place of paradox. And Catherine, will you sing us April in Paris, please?
April's in the air, but once in Paris, April wore a different gown. I can see her waltzing down the street. The tang of wine is in the air. I'm drunk with all the happiness that spring can give. Never dreamed it could be so exciting to live. April in Paris, chestnut in blossom, holiday tables under the trees. This is a feeling no one can ever reprise. I never knew the charm of spring, never met it face to face. I never knew my heart could sing, never missed a warm embrace. Till April in Paris, whom can I run to? What have you done to my heart?
Now, going along with this idea of prisms, rotating prisms, life and love and anything about either of them may at one moment seem real and at another moment seem like an illusion. And Yip thought that unless you believe in yourself and believe in some other person who believes in you, everything may just be an illusion. He says this better than I do. So he is going to say it on an audio tape that he made in 1970 at the 92nd Street Y Lyrics and Lyricist series. And then his grandson Ben is going to sing you the song, It's Only a Paper Moon.
Not only every artist, but every person is confronted with two things in his life. His drive is to be related to the universe, but that's a hard thing because there are so many stars, and it's very hard to grasp that relationship. So his next best thing is to be related to humanity, and there are a lot of people, and that's hard too. So if he can identify himself and relate with one person, he will relate with all of humanity, and then he will relate with all the stars. And I think it's summed up in...
It's only a paper moon sailing over a cardboard sea, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me. Oh, it's only a cotton in the sky hanging over a nylon tree, but it wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me. Without your smile, it's a honky-tonk parade. Without your love, it's a melody played
in a penny arcade. It's a Barnum and Bailey world, phony as it can be, but wouldn't be make-believe if you believed in me.
As I said, Yip was always conscious of speaking out for social justice, and usually he did it in a way that wasn't sort of dead on, get out there, make things better, and so on. However, at the depths of the Depression in 1932, he did write his one song that is clearly about injustice. And again, he says it better than I do, so we will hear him talk about it. And then we'll hear a little bit of the first recording of it made by Bing Crosby, who really appreciated the song, felt it deeply, and recorded it despite censors who did not want to put it on the radio. Life was supposed to be a bowl of cherries while a third of the country had no jobs. But he recorded it too fast, and it was on the airwaves and became the anthem of the Big Depression, the Great Depression. So Yip will explain, then Bing will sing a little, and then Catherine will sing you the song.
And so, in 1930, when the Dream Machine was derailed and the engine wrecked, I saw executives driving taxis, engineers selling apples, skilled workers and veterans standing in bread lines. They were not people in revolt or angry, but baffled, bewildered that this big, powerful dream machine could collapse so utterly. The lyric I wrote to Jay Gorney's music was not for an underling asking for a handout, but for a proud man asking a vital question.
Once I built a railroad, made it run, made it race against time. Once I built a railroad, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once I built a tower to the sun, brick and rivet and lime. Once I built a tower, now it's done. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, gee, we looked swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots went slogging through hell. I was a kid with a drum. Say, don't you remember you called me out? It was out all the time. Say, don't you remember? I'm your pal. Brother, can you spare a dime? Once in khaki suits, gee, we look swell, full of that Yankee doodly-dum. 500,000 boots
now that you've got the background songs, these three great classics that were written, as you said, before the rainbow became the dominant image in Yip's work, dominant metaphor, it's time to look at all these layers and dimensions of Yip's rainbow. And again, I'd like to turn to Yip, where he's reminiscing about some of the things that would lead him into being attracted to the material in The Wizard of Oz.
That made a terrific impact on me. The next great big impact that I remember, which had some connection with my work, was a very sweet lady, a Miss Wizan, also blonde hair, at Public School 36 on 9th Street and Avenue C, who took 3 kids in the class, because we were the top of the class, to see Maud Adams and Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm. I think we actually have a picture of that, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a first.
I got that picture there. She bought it for me,
then?
yes,
and
I've kept it all this time.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of Maud Adams and Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And I think that had something to do with my point of view of fantasy, my love for fantasy, my love for people that were a little larger than life, people that The Wizard of Oz came naturally to me. Finian's Rainbow came naturally to me. In fact, I'm much more at home with people that are a little larger than life, or a little bit, or who represent symbols of life rather than people. I can't deal with dialogue or with lyrics even that are bread and butter lyrics to with cliche lines, with ordinary everyday lines of I love you. It must be something that has some rose petals in it, or stardust or something.
Rainbows.
Yes, and I feel more at home.
I'd like to ask Ernie Harburg, I won't go through all his credentials again, to come up and tell us a bit more about what preceded Yip's interest in The Wizard of Oz, and then about Yip's role in The Wizard of Oz.
I want to start way back, 1,000 years ago. A man named Thucydides wrote, "The path to happiness is through freedom, and the path to freedom is through courage." And about 200 years ago, Thomas Jefferson wrote, "All men are created equal, and each of us has the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." In 1900, Frank L. Baum wrote a book about the pursuit of happiness. It was written in the format of a universal fairy tale, a morality fable, which told us that we each had to learn, each of us, to use our hearts, our brains, and our courage to find our own home in order to pursue our happiness and that of others. The book became an instant blockbuster, largely because it included a number of universal ideas which link each of us as individuals with a sense of humanity. There is a theme of immigration, or Dorothy as an immigrant, a theme of her metamorphosis to become a whole person, and several other such universal themes. For instance, one theme could be called feminism. The protagonist of the book is a young woman, and there is a good witch and a bad witch, women. In fact, the only major male human character in the book is the wizard, who is actually a humbug. The theme of humbuggery, or charlatanism, is also universal, unfortunately. The wizard makes false promises to Dorothy and sends her on a hunt to kill a witch, and when she returns, he cannot reward her. This sounds more like our current president in his search to kill the terrorists. His vice president, however, is more like the Wicked Witch of the West. Also, Oz is actually a secular utopia. There are no bureaucrats, bureaucratic organizations. There are no military. There are no organized religion. In fact, there is no reference whatsoever to a supernatural being in the land of Oz. In 1938, Louis B. Mayer of MGM Studios decided to produce The Wizard of Oz as a film, to take it from the book and make it into a film. A couple of years earlier, however, catastrophe had struck MGM when Irving Thalberg, the resident production chief, a genius who had a hand in creating over 40 films a year for the studio, suddenly died. Mervyn LeRoy reluctantly took his place, and Arthur Freed, a songwriter turned producer, was hired on the Wizard of Oz film. Both men were neophyte producers and overwhelmed by the task of producing 40 films a year, with Louis B. Mayer sitting over the top. When Arthur Freed hired Yip and Harold Arlen to write the score for The Wizard of Oz, there was a vacuum of leadership which Yip instantly filled, being a former executive producer in his business in the 20s, and show doctor, and generally the muscle for his own shows. His major contribution to the film was to get permission to integrate the songs and the storyline, a radical notion at that time. Thalberg had left a method for finding writers, hire them for a week, take the script, fire them, supervise a rewrite, then hire some more writers, and in that way he could keep control of the developing film without having doing any writing himself. And in this way there were about, actually, a dozen writers in all on The Wizard of Oz. Yip and Arthur Freed began to take control of the script by editing what they were handed during the interim of firing and hiring. And then Freed became an occasional visitor, and Yip took over the editing until finally Yip became the final editor before the script was locked up, in which place he, as he says, reduced the clutter. What kind of clutter? Well, they put in a cousin for the witch, a son for the Mrs. Gulch, a bunch of other random characters, and Yip knocked all this down to get back to the book, refashioning the introductions to all the songs. In fact, Yip wrote the entire scene of the wizard, giving out the heart, brain, and courage. He and Harold actually wrote the ballad of the Rainbow 2 weeks after their contract ran out. So things were in an amazing chaos when that film was being produced. It is amazing that it came out, and I think as a unity, as an art work, and I think that's largely because of Yip's adding coherence to what was a very messy project. So in sum, Yip had a singular influence on the film. Perhaps the most important difference between Baum's book, and there was a great many differences, and Yip's adaptation is that the word rainbow was never mentioned once in Baum's novel. The storybook of Dorothy never went over a rainbow. So the answer to the question is, Yip put the rainbow in The Wizard of Oz, literally. With this poetic symbol, he uses the image to express the wonder and the many colors of life. Millions of Americans still sing this great song, and the image of the rainbow has become one of peace and hope, and for gays and lesbians, even liberation. And it started with the great phrase, come out, wherever you are. And that rings down through the centuries. The dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. And then the last line, why can't I? Meaning, you can. So that I believe the rainbow helps people with the American dream of pursuing their happiness. And now I'm returning to Yip's daughter-in-law, Deena.
Let's get ourselves into the film. I don't need to say anything before this next excerpt, and we're just going to do a tiny excerpt of it, but I thought it would put us right there. Before we do it, is there anybody in the audience who has never seen The Wizard of Oz? If so, raise your hand. Is there anybody in the audience who has never seen it more than once? Okay, it's really become a part of the fabric of American society and even international society. And Over the Rainbow was declared in a poll by the Record Industry of America and the National Endowment for the Arts to be the greatest song of the 20th century, and by the National Film Institute, American Film Institute, the greatest movie song of all time. Okay, so let's hear how that started.
Some place where there isn't any trouble. Do you suppose there is such a place, Toto? There must be. It's not a place you can get to by a boat or a train. It's far, far away. Behind the moon, beyond the rain.
You dare to dream really do come true.
Young girl, she's lost. She lives in a world without color. The only color that she's probably seen or registered is the rainbow. I want to reiterate what Ernie said, that Yip wrote all these lead-ins into the song. The place where there isn't any trouble, and so on, was Yip's lead into that song. Very effective one, and one that's become part of our vernacular. Okay, and now I want to play another very brief section of a beloved part of the film. It shows us a lot of color, and it also speaks to these issues of community, of equals, and others of the themes that we've been talking about, larger than life, immigrant, Dorothy as immigrant, and so on.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. We must be over the rainbow.
you a good witch or a bad witch?
Who, me? I'm not a witch at all. I'm Dorothy Gale from Kansas.
Oh, well, is that the witch?
Oh, Toto? Toto's my dog.
Well, I'm a little muddled. The Munchkins call me because a new witch has just dropped a house on the Wicked Witch of the East. And there's the house, and here you are, and that's all that's left of the Wicked Witch of the East. And so what the Munchkins want to know is, are you a good witch or a bad witch?
Oh, but I've already told you, I'm not a witch at all. Witches are old and ugly. What was that?
The Munchkins. They're laughing because I am a witch. I'm Glinda, the Witch of the North.
You are? Oh, I beg your pardon, but I've never heard of a beautiful witch before.
Only bad witches are ugly. The Munchkins are happy because you have freed them from the Wicked Witch of the East.
Oh, but if you please, what are Munchkins?
The little people who live in this land. It's Munchkinland, and you are their national heroine, my dear. It's all right. You may all come out and thank her. Come out, wherever you are, and meet the young lady who fell from a star. She fell from the sky, she fell very far, and Kansas, she says, is the name of the star.
Kansas, she says, is the name of the star.
She brings you good news, or haven't you heard? When she fell out of Kansas, a miracle occurred.
We've got humor here, and as I said, lots of the themes that we've been mentioning. Okay, so we love to see the film and sing the songs, and the songs are sung in homes. Tens of thousands of songbooks of the Wizard of Oz selections are sold every year, and soloists sing the songs. The runner-up on American Idol became the runner-up because she sang a not very good version of Over the Rainbow, but nevertheless, millions saw her across the country. And choruses sing it, and so on. Okay, so we want to sing you one of the most loved songs from the movie. And we're going to do it with a verse, a beginning section that probably most of you haven't heard because it's not in the picture. But when you publish songs and you don't have the movie right with the songs, you think that perhaps people won't understand the song unless you give it a setup. So Yip and Harold Arlen wrote a setup for the following song. So now let me introduce our Rainbow Troupe from the Yip Harburg Foundation. These people have been working with us to do 1-hour versions for young people of The Wizard of Oz and Finian's Rainbow. And where am I starting? I'm starting at that end. Okay, so Ben is a part of the group, Ben Harburg. So go on up to the mic, followed by Gabrielle Georgescu. Got that right? Pronunciation? Yeah, okay. Followed by Libbie Jacobson, who is going to sing you this part of the song, which I think most of you have never heard before. And Catherine is going to join in the general festivities here. Next is Genevieve, Koch. And finally, last but not least, John Casey.
Once there was a wicked witch in the lovely land of Oz, and a wickeder, wickeder, wickeder witch there never, never was. She filled the folks in Munchkinland with terror and with dread, till one fine day from Kansas way a cyclone caught a house that brought the wicked, wicked witch her doom. As she was flying on her broom, the house fell on her head, and the coroner pronounced her dead. And through the town the joyous news was spread.
Ding dong, the
So that we all love to see the film and hear the songs and sing the songs. What is a mark of a universal work of art, a universal musical film or theater piece, is that people can do it in new and different ways throughout the decades and the generations, and have the same material speak in a different way. So songs that were originally sung by the Scarecrow and the Tin Man have here been made into a duet that two young people sing to each other about what's on their minds.
I could while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain. And my head I'd be scratching while my thoughts were busy hatching, if I only had a brain.
When a man's an empty kettle, he should be on his mettle, and yet I'm torn apart. Just because I'm presuming that I could be kinda human if I only had a heart.
Oh, I could tell you on the oceans near the shore. I could think of things I'd never thought before, and then I'd sit and think some more.
Just to register emotion, jealousy, devotion, and really feel apart. I would stay young and chipper, and I'd lock it with a zipper if I only had a heart.
Picture me, a balcony, above a voice sings low. Wherefore art thou, Romeo?
I hear a beat. How sweet.
I would not be just a nuttin', my head all full of stuffin', my heart all full of pain.
And perhaps I deserve you and be even worthier of you.
If I only had a brain.
If I only had a heart. I unravel every riddle.
Thank you, Gabrielle and Ben. Now we're going to see something unusual. I'm told not to say much before it, but it speaks for itself. That thing I want to say is that Maxwell Parrish, whose picture you're about to see, a favorite artist of Yip's.
Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me. Where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find
died very tragically of cancer in her 30s. And her sister gathered her recordings together and made them into some albums. And they became #1 on the charts in Great Britain, in England, for months and months in the mid-1990s. And then when they finally got here, they were also, the album was Over the Rainbow, #1 for months and months, and still very much alive. This was her favorite song, and we wanted you to see it because we know it initially from Dorothy, a young girl with the kind of yearning and trouble she's in The Wizard of Oz, and this is an interpretation of someone a bit older who's further along on her journey of life and is singing it from a different kind of yearning, hope and yearning. Okay, so let's move on to Finian's Rainbow, and I won't say much now because we should move this along. An interesting thing, though, that I wanted to say was connecting with Ravaz and the next part of our program, Finian's Rainbow part, is that there was a dropped lyric and music to We're Off to See the Wizard, and it went like this. Excuse my singing next to this great singing, but anyway. Follow the fellow over the stream, follow the fellow who follows a dream. Okay, so that's not in The Wizard of Oz, it was cut. However, the idea of a fellow who follows a dream was obviously picked up for Finian's Rainbow. So the two works have a lot in common, and you can figure them out beyond the rainbow being the dominant image just mentioned. Again, there's a lot of magic amidst the real-life aspects. There would be slippers and crocks of gold and leprechauns and witches, and there are communities of equals in both places, Munchkinland and Rainbow Valley. There are tyrants in both places. The people, though, manage to find a way beyond those tyrants, and many other things. The happy endings also. There's no more magic left in either show, but the people have found home, so to speak. No more wishes on a crock of gold, and no more ruby slippers. But it's a happy ending. Okay, so let's see Bert Lane talk about the creation of the song, Look to the Rainbow. This is a very short video, but very, very interesting video. And then David's going to follow up a little bit on that.
The inevitable question put to songwriters is, what comes first, the music or the lyrics? As if the answer to that question would solve the whole problem of how to write a song. Well, here is an example of something I never thought possible. The script called for a dance to express the newfound friendship between Finian and his daughter from Ireland and the inhabitants of Rainbow Valley, Mississauga, USA. It had to start with an American folk dance, and at a certain point, turn into an Irish jig. My first problem was to get a theme that would work for both purposes. I was lucky to come up with this one, and this is for the American version. Then it turns into an Irish jig. When I was halfway through this ballet, which was taking me weeks to write, it suddenly struck me that we needed something to get into the dance. And I discussed this with Yip, and we decided we would have a song that would precede the dance. I took the Irish jig, took some notes out of it, and turned it into an Irish ballad.
So that was Bert's Irish jig, which he slowed down and turned into Look to the rainbow, follow it over the hill and stream. Just by slowing down the jig. And we'll be singing the whole tune for you at the end of our program.
Bert didn't end up using the American part in the show at all, and we think it's really a great piece of music. Anyway, so now let's get into some of the songs that we're continuing on the journey the rainbow journey. Now it's Finian's rainbow. And we're going to meet the Irish immigrants, Finian McGonigan and his daughter Sharon. And they've just arrived in Rainbow Valley, Mississippi. Their journey's end. And Sharon is feeling a little bit nostalgic for home.
Sharon, you're gonna have everything you left behind in Glockamora and more.
Aye, listen.
Aye, it's the same Skylark music we had back in Ireland, lass. Do you hear it?
Aye, a Glockamora skylark. I hear a bird, a Glockamora bird. It well may be he's bringing me a cheering word. I hear a breeze, a river Shannon breeze. It well may be it's carried me across the seas. Then tell me, please, how are things in Glockamora? Is that little brook still leaping there? Does it still run down through Donny Cove, through Killybegs, Kilcarry, and Kildare? How are things in Glockamora? Is that willow tree still weeping there? Does that laddie with the twinkling eye come whistling by? And does he walk away sad and dreamy there, not to see me there? So I ask each weeping willow and each brook along the way, and each lad that comes a-whistling to relay, how are things in Glockamora this fine day? Father, why are you crying?
It's that cheap Irish music.
Right on the heels of his Irish compatriots is the leprechaun. Og, the leprechaun, is following them to Rainbow Valley to get back his crock of gold that Finian has borrowed from him to make it grow and sprout gold from the ground. Anyway, on the way to finding the pot of gold, Og begins to feel what it's like to be mortal. So I'd like to ask Og and Sharon to come up and do a scene and a song for us.
Oh man, I'm all wet.
Well, this is
Ribbit,
a pretty
croak,
kettle of fish.
Ribbit, croak,
Is it a frog you're pretending to be?
ribbit, croak.
Well, if you won't speak, back into the well you go.
Oh no.
Ah, so you found your tongue. Well then, speak up, account for yourself. Why were you hiding in that well?
Oh, I wasn't hiding. You see, somebody had set me on fire and I had to put myself out.
I see. And who put the torch to you?
A sunbeam.
A sunbeam?
A sunbeam, disguised as a fairy queen. Ha! But you can't fool me. I know a sunbeam when I see one.
Oh, well, you're very poetical. Why, thank you.
Don't come too close, please. I'll jump back in again.
Oh, alas, I'm beginning to understand. I've known that feeling myself.
You have?
Only recently.
It hit me this morning when you sun your hair at the brook.
Is it a warmish, kind of a glowish, kind of a peculiarish sensation?
No, kind of a quiverish, shiverish, flibberty, gibberish sensation.
Does it make you feel hummingbirds in your heart?
Butterflies in me feet.
Stars in your britches?
Stars and butches. It makes you dance.
It makes you want to dance.
I haven't even noticed that.
And sing.
Oh, it does, it does. Something sweet Something sort of grandish sweeps my soul. When thou art near, my heart feels so sugar candish. My head feels so ginger beer. Something so darish, so I don't care-ish, stirs me from limb to limb. It's so terrific, magnificent, delish to have such an amorous, glamorous dish. We could be, oh, so bright, groomish, skies could be so bluish blue, life could be so love and bloomish if my ishes could come true.
Thou art sweet, thou art sort of brandish, thou outlandish cavalier. From now on, we're hand in handish, Romeo.
Oh, and Guinevere, thou so adorish, to so moorish, I'm so ashamed of them.
How could I vanquish, relinquish, resist, when I simply relish this hellish condition?
I might be manishish or mouseish, I might be a foul fish, but with thee I'm Eisenhausish. Please accept my proposition. You're under my skinish, so please be given it, or it's the beginning of finish of me.
The Irish folk, who are really good people, poor people, are welcomed by the citizens of Rainbow Valley, and they're a wonderful community of friends and equals, but they're poor and oppressed residents of the state of Mississippi, with a racist white senator kind of ruling over them. And on the one hand, they know the score, and on the other hand, they can have something of a sense of humor about it. And they have a civic leader who helps them see, I don't know, this, not exactly the silver lining, but helps them laugh a little bit at their misery.
What is the curse that makes the universe so all bewildering? What is the hoax that just provokes the folks they call God's children? What is the jinx that gives a body and his brother and everyone around that run around? Necessity, necessity, that most unnecessary thing, necessity, what throws a monkey wrench in a fella's good intention, that nasty old invention, necessity. My feet want to dance in the sun, my head wants to rest in the shade. The Lord says go out and have fun, but the landlord says your rent ain't paid. No necessity. It's plain to see what a lovely old world, the silly old world could be. But man, it's only a mess, account of necessity. Oh, Satan's the father of sin, and Cupid's the father of love. Oh, hell is the father of gin, but no one knows the father of necessity. Necessity, that's the maximum that a minimum thing could be.
our community here is thinking maybe things will get better. Yip always had people look for hope, and they had each other, and they were looking forward to things getting better, but they wanted to know,
when are things gonna get better? Yeah, when, yeah.
On that great come and get it day, won't it be fun when worry is done and money is hay? That's the time things will come your way. On that great, great come and get it day,
I'll get my gown, that calico gown. I'll get my mule, that acre of ground. 'Cause word has come from Gabriel's horn. The earth beneath your plow is abundant, and now it's yours.
glory times coming for to stay. On that great, great
Come and get it day.
come and get it, come and get it, come and get it, come and get it.
Says here, says it in the good book, it says, a mighty warning is nigh. Universal 4th of July. Gonna get your freedom and high. Bells will ring in every steeple. What a day for people in overalls. Come you free and you equal people.
Come and get your gravy and 2 meatballs. On that great come and get it day, won't it be fun when worry is done and money is paid?
That's the time things will come your way.
On that great, great come and get it day, my gown will be a candle gown. My feet will dance all over the town.
'Cause word has come from Gabriel's horn. The earth beneath your plow is abundant, and now it's your glory times coming for to stay. On that great, great come and get it and keep it and share it. Come and get it day.
Symphony's Rainbow does end, not with that song, but on a note of hope. Finian goes over another rainbow to seek his next adventure, and Sharon stays with the folks in Mississippi who are now much better off. Just as a finishing song here, we wanted to jump ahead. The show Finian's Rainbow was written in 1947, and there was plenty wrong with the world and with the United States. We're still living in a period of Jim Crow laws and rights for any number of people didn't exist. But then, as the next couple decades went on, we went through McCarthyism here. A lot of Yip's friends were totally demolished by it. Yip himself was blacklisted in Hollywood and on TV. Broadway did not blacklist people, fortunately, so he was able to work here. There was the Vietnam War, the deaths of Martin Luther King. Yip was getting older. The thing was that he was able to still retain his hope. But songs were coming out that were like, I know that things are bad in this world, but we have to be like the phoenix rising from the ashes and come through it. So this is a song that he wrote in 1966 with yet another composer, O. Robinson. And Catherine, will you start it off first?
My seed is sown now, my field is plowed, my flesh flesh is bone now, my back is bound. So hurry, sundown, be on your way, and hurry me, sun up, on this beat-up sundown day. Hurry down, sundown, be on your way. Weave me tomorrow out of today. Tomorrow's breeze now blows clear and loud. I'm off my knees now, I'm standing proud. So hurry, sundown, be on your way, and hurry me, sun up, from this beat-up sundown day. Hurry down, sundown, be on your way. We reach tomorrow out of today. Hurry down, sundown, get thee be gone, get lost in the sunrise of a new dawn. Hurry down, sundown, take this old day, wrap it in new dreams, save it my way, save it my way, save it my
And finally, we wanted to go back to where we started when Yip sang you Look to the Rainbow at the beginning of the show. He was near the end of his life and yet looking still like a person who was looking for that rainbow, looking towards hope. And now our cast is going to do it the way it was done in Finian's Rainbow.
In Glockamora, where we come from, there's an old legend. You'll never grow old, you'll never grow poor, if you look to the rainbow beyond the next moor.
I wonder who thought that one up.
My father. On the day I was born, said my father, said he,
I've an elegant legacy waiting for ye. 'Tis a rhyme for your lip and a song for your heart, to sing it whenever the world falls apart.
Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow the fellow who follows a dream. 'Twas a sumptuous gift to bequeath to a child, for the lure of that song kept my feet running wild. For you never grow old, and you never stand still, with whippoorwill singing beyond the next hill.
Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow the fellow who follows a dream.
melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Jim